Hey guys, welcome to the show. Well, here we are once again taking a look at a bad movie that most people have either not seen or have seen and just don't like. And as always, I disagree.
Moron.
Hold your breath everyone, because in this episode we're taking a look at something special. A masterpiece in its own right. This is the return of Swamp Thing.
Oh no.
So I'll start by saying that although this is a sequel, you don't really need to have seen the first movie that came out in 1982 to enjoy this one. And although the first movie was written and directed by Wes Craven, I didn't like it and much preferred its more colourful and sort of tongue-in-cheek sequel from 1989.
What's new, Jolly Green Giant?
And before we do get started, I really do feel the need to set the tone here by telling you that this movie was directed by Jim Wynorski, who has directed an unbelievable amount of shit over the years, including Deathstalker 2, and of course, Chopping Mall from 1986. And with that, the tone has been set.
Oh dearie dear.
So if you're unfamiliar with this comic book character, who or what is Swamp Thing? Swamp Thing was originally a scientist named Alec Holland who was working on some sort of formula that could, quote unquote, double the world's food production, and some bad guy called Arcane steals it and our good scientist is caught in a, and again I quote, terrible explosion and fire. And like I said, you don't need to have seen the first movie because Swamp Thing himself gives us the gist of the story and how he became Swamp Thing in this wee flashback moment. Over to you, Swamp Thing.
The formula reconstructed my tissue from the slime in the swamp.
And at this point in the video, I want to say that I'm only going to give you a brief overview of the story here because I really don't want to be spoiling anything for anybody, but in a nutshell, Dr. Arcane's up to no good trying to create a potion that can rejuvenate himself. Swamp Thing falls in love with Abby Arcane, yes, the stepdaughter of our bad guy, a battle commences and voila, the return of Swamp Thing. So now that's out the way, let's take a look at all the good and the bad that this movie has to offer, because while there is a ton of garbage on display, it all sort of fits nicely together to form this awesome good bad movie. It really is something else, and I think if you go into it with the right mindset, it'll keep you entertained.
I don't believe you. So
let's start with our hero Swamp Thing, who, let's face it, has the music that you want to hear if you're about to be rescued. Interestingly enough, I read online that while Dick Durock played the part of Swamp Thing, the voice used isn't actually his. It was some other guy they brought in to dub it over, and although Dick Durock can make Swamp Thing do power turns like this, I'm not complaining about his voice being dubbed because Swamp Thing's voice here is the perfect voice for this cheesy comic book hero.
I'm sorry, sometimes I forget what I look like.
And you know what? Swamp Thing's makeup still holds up today. No CGI going on there. The costume is so good that the filmmakers are not afraid to show you him in the daylight where any failings of the special effects will be visible for all to see.
I don't understand. How can that be?
And it's not just Swamp Thing's visual effects that look good here. I think the effects in the movie overall are really effective. Like here when Swamp Thing gets blown to bits. Simple, but effective. I think the scream adds to it a wee bit. So who else do we have in this masterpiece, I hear you ask? There's the excellent Louis Jourdan who plays Dr. Arcane, and strangely enough,
Gigi.
He's got a parrot called Gigi.
Am I a fool without a mind?
And like any good bad guy, he's also got a hat. Every bad guy needs a good hat. What is that, Panama? Beautiful.
This is beautiful. What is that, velvet?
I can't help but think that he's cringing on the inside here because he knows that he's in a bad movie, but being a true professional, he's getting the job done.
On the spot, you say?
Well, that's what he says anyway.
On the complete opposite end of the ability scale, yet no less enjoyable, we have the one and only Monique Gabriel.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. The crystal ball never lets me down.
Yes, we have a Monique Gabriel attempt at acting here, and things don't start well as she blinks while firing her gun. That's it, Monique. Try your best not to blink when you're shooting them. Let's try again the other guy. Oh, no. Anyway, no offence, Monique. We love you, but your character's supposed to be a badass. Don't blink when you're shooting. There's some person called Sarah Douglas who I don't seem to recognise and have never mentioned before on the show. Sarah Douglas, Sarah Douglas, Sarah Douglas, Sarah Douglas,
Sarah Douglas.
Sarah Douglas, Sarah Douglas. Never heard of her.
We have a unique relationship.
Anyway, moving on. There's a ridiculous piece of dialogue to ponder that could only be muttered in this type of movie.
Stay vital, my darling.
Oh. Wait. What?
Stay vital, my darling.
Just stay vital, my darling?
Stay vital, my darling.
What kind of thing is that to say to somebody?
What a strange person.
Anyway, like in any superhero movie at this time, we need a love interest who'll probably need rescuing at some point, and this movie gives us Abby Arcane, played by Heather Locklear.
Excuse me.
Garth, it's Heather Locklear.
Who says there ain't no God?
There is a God.
Heather be thy name.
Dang, Moonshine.
Thanks.
Now, while I don't quite have the same level of appreciation for Heather Locklear as Wayne and Garth, I like her in this movie. I think she fits in well with this sort of campy comic book style piece. And I mean no disrespect by that statement as well.
Right.
Then there's the kids. Okay, so when you've got kids in movies like this, they tend to be either poorly written or annoyingly performed by the young actors, but do you know what? The two guys in this movie, they're alright. They don't bother me at all here. In fact, I think they're pretty good. Side note, I always thought that was a Slug Monster. Hey, I was young, how was I to know? And it wasn't until I watched this movie recently for about the 483rd time that I noticed that there's actually a part in the movie where they tell you that it is indeed a leech.
To your property and running across this giant leech thing.
You're Archie Leash!
Leech.
Right!
And I'll use that as my random segue into talking about the action scenes of the movie. The action isn't exactly going to win any awards for choreography, but at least it looks pretty good, and some of the hits are shot well. Like this here, when Swamp Thing just launches Slug Dude onto a car, it's pretty badass. And what more do you need from your superhero than a thumbs up? Swamp Thing, the hero, the man, the plant.
You're a plant, aren't you?
Our hero, everyone.
Hey, just where did you come from?
The bog.
It's just cheese, 100% cheese. Like when Swamp Thing rescues Abby from the Moonshiners.
You ready? I'm like lunch meat. I'm always ready. Let's get it.
Again, I think it feels like a comic book, and given the background of actually being based on a comic book character, surely that's a good thing. I'm not bored when it cuts to a moment like this, or when the other side characters are on screen like the kids from earlier. But when you've got a superhero movie and Heather Locklear's in peril, these types of gimps are necessary for a hero to step in and say, oh hell no.
This guy's coleslaw.
Love it. Love everything about it. And he gets a wee left jab for his insolence. And you know me, there was no way that I was talking about this movie and leaving out possibly my favourite character.
Abigail, this is Mr. Gunn.
He's not in it maybe as much as I would have liked, but I fucking love this guy.
Like that, baby? Huh?
I just always found these style and mannerisms to be enjoyable and funny, and that still stands to this day.
10 years of training in Okinawa.
I'll point out here that I first watched this movie when I was 9 or 10, and he entertained me then, and still does.
Enchanté.
On parole is more like.
No, come on.
It's that laugh of his. But now that I'm looking at this shot again, what is actually going on with that chest there? It's like a forest in there.
I like your sweater. Does that come in a V-neck?
Like I said earlier, all these weird and shitty ingredients come together to produce this, what can only be described as one-of-a-kind experience. There's just so much to take in, so I'll try and run through some of the more what the fuck moments, or things that have just always stood out for me over the years, and we'll see if we can make some sense out of this madness. Let's go. Right, why is he wearing clothes? I mean, Swamp Thing doesn't wear clothes, so what's this guy all about? Why is he wearing trousers? Or pants, if you prefer.
He had to wear pants because those movies were made in the 40s.
There's a scene where Abby's in this taxi on her way out to her stepdad's house, and when she asks the driver if they're going the right way, he tells her there's only two ways they can go, the direction they're going in and back.
And we ain't been this way, and we ain't going back, so I guess we're going the right way. That makes sense to you?
Aye. Fuck it. And then watch closely at the bit of paper in his hand. As if by magic, he just throws it towards the window and it just sticks to his beads. How did he achieve that? Some kind of sorcery? Look at that. We find out that Monique can fire a gun without blinking. Oh, Sarah, the hairspray. The hairspray! And of course, no 80s cheese fest is complete without a few displays of over-death acting.
This is where you fall down. Where do you get these guys?
There's this scene where Abby just flat out lies.
I slept like a baby.
Really? In that awkward position, propped up against that tree? Really, Abby? You look about as comfy as Dar when he used his sword as a pillow? There's this guy with a wobbly head that I'm definitely not going to mention because I said the effects in the movie were good. So let's just quickly cut to this guy instead. There's dialogue that again could only appear in this type of movie.
Will produce a nearly spontaneous superdeveloped mutation.
A what?
Superdeveloped mutation.
A superdeveloped mutation? What the hell is that? Oh, that.
Superdeveloped mutation.
Now I don't know much about explosives around your neck, but is that not dangerous? This scene also doubles up nicely as an anti-smoking advertisement. And last but not least, we've got Monique Gabriel's eyebrow acting.
No, Gun, you're the one who's finished.
This whole segment is where poor Monique's trying her best to get a grip of those out of control eyebrow movements, but just can't help herself.
By tomorrow, I'll have your job.
Look at those bad boys go. Totally out of control.
Garbage day!
Monique. At least I appreciate you.
Where's Arcane's stepdaughter?
Well, where's Brandy?
So let's wrap this bad boy up. The Return of the Swamp Thing is a fun little superhero movie filled with great music, cheesy dialogue, and everything you'd expect from the 80s. Of course it's entirely predictable, but when you're dealing with Slug Monsters, James Bond type villains and Heather Locklear, a little predictability is welcomed. It sort of soothes the madness on show.
It's been a long time since I've laughed.
And that is the Return of the Swamp Thing. The fever dream that it is. And when it's all over and you're lying there in the days, you'll be asking yourself one question. Was that real?
As real as you want it to be.
Anyway, as always, thanks for watching guys. Take care, and remember...
My name is Gigi. My name is Gigi.
We know.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Well, here we are, once again taking a look at a bad movie that most people have either seen and don't like, or haven't seen, and that's just the worst take ever. And like I said, you don't need to have seen the first movie because Swamp Thing himself gives us the gist of the story and how he actually became Swamp Thing in a wee backflash moment. What the fuck's a backflash?